hotshot filmmaker by the name of David Lynch accepts the invitation to bring to screen Frank Herbert's epic triumph in science fiction. Little did the director know that the effect of this decision would change his life and his career. That story is the story that takes place on the planet Arrakis, also known as Dune. My journey with Dune began when I was a really young kid. I remember we were at the library and looking at they used to have at this library, they used to have shelves and shelves full of VHS tapes where my dad found the Dune VHS. It's like, oh yeah, it's Dune, Dune is awesome. And so I remember watching the film as a kid and just loving it. I didn't quite understand all the weird stuff that was going on, but I just knew that I loved the movie. And while I loved the movie, others did not.
It was almost universally panned.
There was no humor in it. I can't remember even smiling once.
There was a big backlash against it. There was a lot of publicity about the movie before it opened, how it was going over budget, how they were having all sorts of problems in Mexico while they were making it, and potential clashes between Lynch and Dino De Laurentiis, and the media kind of fed off that. So I think there was a certain amount of, people smelled blood, in the air, and there was a certain ganging up on the movie.
The film was panned by most critics, the largest among them being Lynch himself.
I don't even like talking about Dune.
I always say Dune is a huge, gigantic sadness in my life.
Despite the critical failure of the film, Lynch went on to have a successful film career, with films like Blue Velvet, Mulholland Drive, as well as the popular TV show Twin Peaks. But why does Lynch dislike the film so much?
As I did not have final cut on that film.
Signing away final cut. And the reason is I didn't have final cut.
The film is not the film that I would have made had I had that final control.
So, Lynch hates the movie. So do many critics. But does everybody hate Dune?
None of the critics, with the exception of David Anson and myself, of course I was not a major critic, but my stuff got around, gave it a good review.
My review was one of the only positive reviews that came out, which I do not apologize for, and I would write the same review today, I think. But I do feel that a lot of my colleagues kind of jumped on the bandwagon with undue viciousness.
I loved the film. I was surprised people didn't enjoy it more. I really was. I thought it would find a bigger audience than it did. I'm afraid it wasn't perhaps promoted as well as it could have been. I don't know that the studio really supported it. That's an unfortunate thing, because I think it's a very beautiful movie.
A couple things that really kind of were interesting in the book, but really stood out to me in the movie, were some of the little almost internal dialogues that Paul would have. I remember fear is the mind killer. I picked up on that pretty quick. I'm like, you know what? That's true. Fear is the mind killer. When we get afraid of things, we really start having problems dealing with things because we let our fear take control.
The first time I saw it, I was very confused. But it was a joyful bewilderment. I'd liked what I seen, and I wasn't unhappy at the confusion. I was what I saw was, yeah, very confusing, but it was visually very pleasing, and whatever happened in the story, it was a fun ride.
I had really hoped that Mr. Lynch would accept my invitations to ask him a few questions about the film and then do a short interview with him. But those requests went unanswered, and that's just how it is. I hope that someday he might see this documentary and realize that despite his perceived notion of Dune's failure, it was a great success. Maybe not in the way that he wanted, but it has continued to influence generations. And I think that is a really good thing that he should know and that he should believe and that he should see the good that it's done. And maybe others don't feel that way, but it's done a lot of good for me.